Now I want to show you how to work with the most common data type, which is numbers. So the simplest thing you can do with numbers is just to use the print command to print them onto the console. Print, parentheses, and then you can simply input your number into this parenthesis. You don't need any quotation marks, you don't need anything like that. You simply run the program and it's going to print out the number. You could also make it a more complicated number. So for example, 68.419. And if we try to print out that as well, it's going to print just like we wanted to. Well, obviously you can make the number negative. You run the program, displays negative. Everything's working fine. There's a bunch of different operations you can perform on numbers. The most obvious ones being addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. Another thing you can also do, because Python follows the order of operations. So if we do 5 plus 5 times 5, and we run the program, it's going to print out 30 because 5 times 5 is 25 and then plus 5 is 30. However, you can also use parentheses to change that order just like in normal maths. So putting the parentheses in here and printing out the number is going to say 50 because 10 times 5 it's 50. One a little more complicated method of working with numbers is using the modulus operators. So to use the modulus operator, we're going to type 100%24. And what it does is it's dividing the first number by the second number and then calculating the remainder of that. So how you're actually supposed to read this is 100 mod 24. And if we start the program, it's going to print out 4 because the remainder from 100 divided by 24 is 4. And this is our modulus operator, and that's how you can calculate the remainder. So now I'm going to show you some really useful functions. I'm going to go over the most common functions used in Python, all of them to work with numbers, of course. So first off, we're going to create a variable which contains a number. We're going to call it mynum, and we're going to add the value of 50 into it. And of course, the first thing you're gonna do, you can print out the variable, print mynum, start the program, it prints out 50. So now the first function I'm going to show you is ABS. And ABS stands for the absolute function. So I'm going to real quick change 50 to negative 50. And now if we input our variable into the absolute function used by writing ABS and brackets, if we run the program now, it's going to print out 50 again, because 50 is the absolute number from negative 50. So I'm going to just get rid of this variable right now. And we're going to go through some different functions now. The first one being POW, POW, brackets. And then we actually have to input two numbers. The first one being the actual number. So for example, 10. And then the second number being the power to which we want to take the first number. So if we write 10 and then 10, it's going to give us 10 billion because 10 to the power of 10 is 10 billion. So if I run the program, it says 10 billion. The next function you can use is max, MAX. And what this function does is it's going to check which one of the two numbers is the bigger one. So if we run the function, it will print out 20 because 20 is the biggest number. However, if instead of using the max function, we're going to use the min function, min, and we start, it's going to print out 10 because 10 is the smallest number. You can also use a round function to round your number. So round, parentheses, and then you input the number you want to round. 9.4. And this function obviously operates using the basic rounding rules. So if we put 9.4 and run the program, it's going to print out 9. And if we input 9.5, it's going to already round it up to 10. And those were all the functions I wanted to go through from the basic Python, which doesn't require you to import anything. So now I'm going to import an external library, which is also default in Python. You don't have to download anything, and you don't really have to understand what I'm going to write right now. You just have to know that if you do that single line, it's going to import for you more commands which you can use, more functions which you can use, and that's pretty much what it does. You don't have to go into detail how it does that, for now at least. So just type from math import star. What you have to understand about it is that it imports more functions for you to use, and we're going to go through the most useful ones of them right now. So the first one being floor. Floor is another rounding function. However, this one always rounds downwards no matter what. So if I write the number, for example, 8.9, and I run the program, it's printing out 8 because it always rounds downwards. The opposite of it is the ceiling function, ceil. It does the opposite. It, no matter what, rounds upwards. So it prints out 9. So the next function which got imported is actually the square root function. So sqrt, parentheses, and then we input our number, for example, 49, run the program, and it's printing out 7, because 7 is the square root of 49. However, you can see this prints out 7.0, and if you don't want that 0.0 in your number, you're going to have to wrap this square function into another function, which is int, which will basically convert the number into an integer, which cannot have numbers after the dot. So if we start the program now, it's simply printing out 7 without downloading .0 at the end. And yeah, that's it. See ya.